Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Board YouTube channel. We are here on our weekly podcast with myself, Jacob, and my co-host, Kirk Evans, to talk through some weekly NBA takeaways. We have a few things of note today that we're going to be discussing, namely Draymond Green and his suspension. Then we'll also discuss the New York Knicks and perhaps next steps for this team to get to the next level, the top level of the East. And it is pretty much the unofficial start of the NBA trade season tomorrow. We'll talk about some names that could be involved in some phone calls starting December 15th, the Friday, depending when you're listening. That could be tomorrow. That could have already happened. So we have that along with some additional betting at the end of the episode. But let's go to Kirk Evans. Another week of NBA is in the books. We had the in-season tournament finale as well, the championship game. What were your overall thoughts on that in-season tournament as a whole?
I thought overall it kind of went pretty well for the NBA. Seemed like viewership was up, and really, I think that the number one thing the NBA has to focus on going forward is making regular season games matter. So I thought they did a really good job with that. The games clearly mattered. People watched. Teams were into it, but I think there are a lot of things that need to be changed. Mainly, like there's a lot of incentive talk, but that the fact that these teams actually get punished, it makes the schedule harder, more travel. But really, the big one, and I tweeted about this, the Knicks.
Yeah,
All they got from the in-season tournament was playing the Bucks and Celtics, the two best teams in the conference. Those are the two extra games. Like that just kind of doesn't seem fair. So, I think there are good ways to fix it going forward. But to me, just teams shouldn't be punished in the regular season for making the in-season tournament. But yeah, overall, I thought it was cool. I think it'll just get better.
Yeah, agreed. For a first time doing it, I thought it was fun. Like a lot of people are saying, like never in my life would I think I'm like changing my schedule to be able to watch Kings versus Pelicans, right? So, and people were excited about a game like that. So, yeah, I think overall I had, I guess, my doubts, but I trusted that this thing would work because I had my doubts about the play-in tournament. I think that is a pretty good feature for the NBA now. And you're right, it's all about making regular season games more relevant. The in-season tournament has done that. The play-in tournament has absolutely done that as well. So I think the NBA are pretty happy with how this went down, and this will definitely be something going forward. How do you feel about the Lakers hanging a banner for it, though? Do you think that this will eventually become a coveted prize for NBA teams?
Yeah, like I would say I mostly feel indifferent about it. Like I just don't really care. I don't think the players
Yeah.
care that much. But like, sure, hang a banner. I don't know. I think the league probably told them, yeah, hang a banner, and they're doing it. It's kind of weird that it's the Lakers. It's
I think
just
it's
because
good
they've
that it's the Lakers, actually, because now any other team can do it and can't get roasted because if the Lakers of all teams will do it, any other team should be able to do it as well. And like, you don't think a team like if the Kings win it or the Timberwolves win it, they're going to go nuts with that thing.
for sure. No, I agree with that for sure. Just the Lakers feels weird because they have what, like 17 championships. So they're putting up like their
Yeah.
18
Yeah. A lot.
championships. They're putting their in-season tournament banner next to their 18 actual
Or seven.
championships.
Yeah. It's 17. You're right. It's 17.
17. All right, whatever.
My bad.
But yeah, it's fine. Like I'm not gonna, care particularly either way if they put up a banner.
Yeah, I agree on that front. So let's get into the meat we got for this episode. We're going to start off with a Draymond Green discussion. Before we do that, anybody watching right now, make sure you smash that like button. Let's drive ourselves up in the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to the Board YouTube channel. Not only do we have this show every Thursday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm live every morning now at 9:45 a.m. with Pips NBA for NBA free picks. So if you want to get your betting fix, this show can do the trick. But every morning as well on this channel, it does the trick as well. So Draymond Green suspended indefinitely, quote indefinitely by the NBA. Yusuf Nurkic had the very famous now post-game remark, that brother needs help. And the NBA are working towards perhaps getting him help. I don't want to go as far as call it counseling or therapy, but Draymond Green, it appears as though has to meet some certain criteria before returning to the NBA after I've seen the term strike. I've seen the term swing. He punched Yusuf Nurkic in the head. And did so intentionally, very clearly. I mentioned this on the morning show yesterday, but how many games did you think he should have gotten versus like what he would get. And then we'll go to your thoughts on the NBA's punishment here.
For sure. So how many games did I think he would get? It's always a hard question when it comes to the NBA. He got 5 for the
Choke.
chokehold, and I thought this was worse, and repeat offending in like the whatever it was, like probably 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later.
Yeah. So
Um,
this is his 6th suspension in the league.
yeah, so I knew it was going to be worse than that. I thought I think indefinitely is honestly pretty fair and good, and I'm actually happy the NBA did that. But I thought he would probably get between 10 and 15, and what does indefinitely mean? I have no idea, but it's going to be probably longer than that.
Yeah, I think indefinitely is just buying time to make a full decision. But I think what it will become is he's got to do some stuff to come back. Like, Ja Morant had to meet certain criteria to be eligible to return. I think Draymond Green will fit into that boat as well. Earlier today, my co-host on the morning show, Pip, said he wouldn't be back before the All-Star break. I don't know if the NBA is going to go that far, but it's a bit upsetting. This is like a shoe-in Hall of Famer that has just consistently acted out like this. And like he's trying to victimize himself, saying like it was an accident. It obviously wasn't an accident. Yusuf Nurkic is pretty tall, so turning and swinging like that, like you're definitely aiming for that. So I don't buy it for 1 second, but he keeps on saying like these things aren't intentional, but very clearly they are, and he treats it after the game like he tries to downplay it, tries to make himself the victim here. But like this is your 6th suspension. He has top 10 in ejections in NBA history. So yeah, your track record follows you. So this sort of thing, the NBA has to clamp down. And also player safety is a big deal. Like you're dragging Rudy Gobert by his neck. You're smacking Yusuf Nurkic in the head. Like maybe not as much safety, but he's like kicked guys in the nuts before in games. So yeah, I'm happy the NBA is really putting their stamp on this and take him out of proceedings for a while. We spoke about the Warriors last week and their struggles. They have not won a game since that episode, actually. But how much do you think this will affect the Warriors' season?
Yeah, I think it'll affect it significantly. I think really to get to their high end upside, which those tail outcomes are looking less and less likely. They need Draymond. He's their best defensive player by far, and one of 2 above average defensive players with Wiggins. And who even knows what the hell's going on with Andrew Wiggins right now? He's kind of completely fallen off the face of the earth. He can't shoot. He got benched last game. So, yeah, it's going to affect them pretty significantly. They're just in disarray. They're not a legitimate content. I think we maybe talked about that last week. They are. It would be shocking if they were anything serious going forward. They're just not very good. Clay's really struggling. Wiggins really struggling. Now Draymond's out. Draymond hasn't even been playing well. CP's been fine, but he doesn't really fit that well. And he's older and getting worse as well. He can't shoot. Looney's also been way worse as well. So
Yeah.
if 4 of, your top 5 players, is that fair to say? CP, Draymond, Clay, Wiggins, Looney, I guess that's 5 of their top 6 guys coming into the year are all heavily on decline. You're going to be a lot worse and you're not going to be very good. And that's what happened. Steph's having a spectacular year and they barely can keep their head above water. So they, I think they're going to just probably be a pretty middling team. You'll probably see them in the play-in, but they're not a real contender.
This is the type of team that like if they're in the playoffs, which is not a guarantee, the whole conversation would be, well, you never know with a Steph Curry team. But I guess part of that reigns true because if he goes nuts, they've got a shot. But I think this team has so many flaws that we spoke about it last week. I'm not sure they're ready to commit to fixing just yet. So
yeah, I do want to quickly go back to Draymond specifically, though, in terms of the suspension. So you mentioned 6 suspensions. I believe that 2 of those suspensions are like hitting the technical limit.
It's true.
It is. So if you think about his 4 suspensions. One of the or his 4 suspensions for like live acts versus, hitting technical limits.
Actually, one of them was also a Warriors sanctioned suspension, not even by the
For sure,
NBA.
Warrior sanctioned. So there's the LeBron play, which was now a while ago. 3 of these things have happened. This is the last like 8 months. It's the last like 4 months of actual basketball being played. And on top of that, there's the Jordan Poole punch in the face. So
Yeah.
I've been a big fan of Draymond, and I actually think he kind of gets underrated in what he's done for this team because he's a spectacular player, or was a spectacular player and a spectacular defender. And he actually, I don't want to go too hyperbolic, but he actually did change basketball pretty significantly with the small ball lineup that the Warriors started putting out there. And that was a pretty big driving change of, switching at center, having a small at center. But he's the best ever to do that, to be, a 6'6", 6'7" guy who can defend the wing. And also he has that, 7'3" wingspan, and he's so strong that he can also defend the rim and defend in the post. So it's sad to me that this has happened. And I think the framing of this is always what Draymond's been isn't really true. I think it has been more of a recent thing. And I think that it really started with that Jordan Poole punch in the face and how non-apologetic he was, and how he kind of kept joking about it and talking about it even after it happened, after he apologized. And look, a lot of Warriors culpability here as well. They've let Draymond, do whatever he wants for a long time, even after, this punch to the face. And Kerr's in a tough spot here, but, he says, I haven't seen the replay. I got to watch the replay. That's kind of always what they've been. No one's ever been willing to, say, yeah, Draymond can't do this. He shouldn't do this. So I think there's a lot of responsibility that falls on the Warriors, but I just hope, I don't know, that he comes back after a while. He deserves a long suspension, and he kind of figures it out and figures out how to calm down, because obviously he's super competitive and he will never not be that way, but he wasn't always injuring players and doing things quite to this level of danger.
Yeah. So the suspension history for Draymond, suspension in 2016 for the LeBron kick.
Yeah.
November 2018, after the KD argument on the sidelines for the Warriors, the Warriors gave him 1 game. That was the Warriors sanction suspension.
Yeah.
March of this year.
Totally different. Like that was weird, but nothing.
There's been other things he's not been suspended for. Like the Steven Adams kick, he wasn't suspended for.
For sure.
Earlier this year was a 16th technical. April this year, he stomped on Sabonis' chest.
Yeah.
November this year was the Gobert one. And December, of course, this year is the Nurkic. So this will be the 6th one. But again, it could have been more. And I'm with you. Hopefully, hopefully he figures things out. I'm wondering if this is just like frustration with maybe a talent decline. He's frustrated that his body isn't allowing him to do the things he used to do. I don't know what it is, but I'm glad the NBA is kind of stepping in and kind of forcing him into I don't know what to call it, like rehab for this. I don't know exactly how to describe it. So let's move on to a team, unless you have anything else.
Yeah, the last thing I wanted to say is just I've been pretty critical of the NBA suspensions. I thought that Ja Morant, and still maintain, I think the Ja Morant suspension is ridiculous. 25 games. I think he should be punished. I think what Ja Morant did was really stupid, but whatever. We don't need to get quite into it, but I think 25 games for Ja is completely insane. I think the fact that Miles Bridges is playing right now is completely insane. But I think the NBA got this right.
Yeah, agreed. Let's move to another team in a different conference at the different end of, well, not quite different end, but certainly hoping to be the different end of the standings right now. The New York Knicks, they have been a topic of conversation, specifically after the in-season tournament, when just like whenever they come up against a big team, I think it was Kenny Smith that said this specifically, they never have the best player on the floor. Sometimes they have the 3rd best player on the floor, or even sometimes the 2nd best player. But the issue perhaps with their roster right now is they don't have that superstar player. And many people would consider that if you have the best player on the floor, you will win that playoff series. Whoever has the best player wins the playoff series. That's not always the case, but perhaps a lot of the time it is. So the Knicks have been waiting a long time. They have done a phenomenal job of gathering assets, gathering picks. They have tradable contracts, but What do you think are the next steps for this Knicks team, and how long do you think it'll take for them to get to those next steps?
Yeah. So quickly, before we get into all of who the Knicks can get, I think weirdly for a New York team, what the Knicks have done, it does not get talked about at all. When you messaged me today saying, "Let's talk about the Knicks," I was pumped because
Right.
the Knicks kind of are like, I don't want to say like an analytics revolution, but what they've done to basketball is, I don't think we've really seen a team do this in the last since I've been deeply following the NBA. And it was a complete pivot from what every kind of trendy, smart NBA analyst thought was the case or the right direction. That was focus on rebounds. They're by far the best rebounding team in the league. They're dominant on the offensive glass. They've turned Mitch Robb into like he's a super important player for them. Maybe their second most important player. He's hurt now. They have Hartenstein coming off the bench. He also dominates the offensive glass, but they zagged when everyone else was zigging, and it has paid incredible dividends. You look at their team right now. I think they're 21st in four factors EFG, and their defensive EFG is not good either. But they dominate the glass on both sides of the ball. They don't turn it over. And, they kill you in the possession game every game. And it's awesome what they're doing. I think they should get more credit for that. I think, the fact that Tibbs is a bit of an old school coach, maybe he doesn't quite get that love. But you look at this roster, they're not very good. Randall's not having a good year. Barrett's debatably.
Barrett is anti-analytics.
Yeah, but it's a weird thing of like these guys are, anti-traditional analytics, especially Randall and Barrett, the way they play. And I think their shot profile probably could be optimized a bit more. But coaching is the coaching in the front office doing something really right when, you could swap their starters for their bench, maybe keep Brenton in there. It's which team's better?
Yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable what they're doing. No one's really having that crazy of a season. Brenson's shooting the hell out of the ball from three, but otherwise, most players are shooting below career norms on this team. Randall started horribly, and they just keep chugging away. They're an awesome team and deserve a ton of credit. But and I also think the way they're built actually allows for a star to come in pretty seamlessly because Brunson's pretty heavy on ball. Randall as well, but Randall they could get rid of pretty easily, and I don't think they would miss him too much. And then, I feel like any real elite player could come in and be awesome here. So which players that is, I think prior to the season, Joel was the clear number one. Now the Sixers are awesome. It's kind of hard to see Joel leaving.
Yeah.
And then the other one I think is Donovan Mitchell, who, if I had to guess, in the next few years probably will be a New York Knick. And Brunson, Mitchell, Mitch Robb, and then like this depth. Are you competing for a title? It's tough, but they'd be really good. They'd be really good.
Yeah, they'd be really good, but that's been my thing about Mitchell. Like when he was on the trade block for the Jazz, so he's in second last year of his contract. I just don't see Donovan Mitchell as the over-the-top piece. Like he's such a good player. He was all NBA last year, deservingly, but when it comes to like a full playoff series, I mean, I don't know. It's so strange. He averaged like, what was it in the bubble? How did he have like 50-point games or something?
Insane. Bubble was a
know.
little different basketball, but yeah.
I of course, but like he had some other outrageous playoff runs with the Jazz, but it's just like, can I trust this guy to be a number one player? I always have questions about that. So I don't even know if Donovan Mitchell puts that team kind of over the top. But I like what you're saying about the Knicks. I think they perfected what the Raptors were doing in 21-22, where possession battle was the name of the game. They didn't care how efficient they were. They were going to outpossess you. They could shoot worse than you, but if they get more shots up, then that's going to make the team successful. And the Knicks are doing it with three-point shooters. So I watched like a recent game where the Raptors played the Knicks. The amount of offensive rebounds that turn into open threes are crazy.
Yeah.
JJ Redick, one of the best shooters of all time, has said the best time to get an open three is off of an offensive rebound. And the Knicks are punishing teams in that way. And I like what you're saying. In their current form, as I have kind of in the graphic, Can this team be serious contenders? Look, the East is pretty good at the top. I don't think they can compete with Boston, Milwaukee. They'd struggle to compete with Philly. And I think that
I
though
could see
this
them
is
beating Philly in a playoff series. Wouldn't shock me.
wouldn't shock me.
Philly
I
at
kind
this
of would
form.
actually. It kind of would
I don't know.
not.
They're both
Okay, you
kind
know
of
what?
similar teams in the sense of like really good in the regular season, but are they going to be
Yeah,
good in the
yeah, that's
playoffs?
fair. But I guess if like an injury goes their way or something like that, could, is it impossible for this team to sneak to, an NBA Finals? Like maybe Boston and Milwaukee match up at some point before the finals. If that somehow happens, like I mean, the Bucks haven't been uh, a juggernaut in terms of their. I know they're 17-7, but if you watch their games, you wouldn't think this is a 17-7 team. So I guess if something crazy happens, yes, but I don't think this team in its current construction can win a championship. So I'm questioning whether they see this season as the season to make any big move. That's a tough one. Because I'm
I
Milwaukee.
think they would need. I think it would either need to be like getting a a guy who you could have as like a 2-3 piece who you could still bring in that number one guy, or if it was somehow some real star got
Yeah,
became available. But they've been pretty good at keeping their powder dry and
yeah,
not forcing it. So I think it's probably not going to be this season. Would be
I
my guess.
agree. And also, you have to feel like the Bucks they're starting to fade off. Like Dame is getting older. He's obviously still
Yeah.
great, but Middleton is not the player he was. Lopez is getting worse. Like like Giannis, dare I doubt him, but this level is just you don't see this sustained forever in the NBA, especially a player of his archetype. Like I don't think it'll be next season, maybe not even the year after that, but like 3 years down the line, is there going to be questions? So perhaps they can wait and see on them. Boston, there's always questions of them tinkering and making a big switch, whether it's trading like a Jalen Brown or something. So I think they can be a little bit patient here, but
Yeah.
let's talk about some players perhaps the Knicks could be eyeing, but perhaps any team in the league could be eyeing. It is, as I mentioned in the intro, the pretty much unofficial start of the NBA trade market. Players who are signed as free agents in the summer, at least most of them, become eligible to trade as of December 15th, which just makes trades a whole lot easier to get down. Now, 2 players we're going to mention were not free agents in the summer, but this, like I said, could facilitate a trade. One of those players is Pascal Siakam, especially with the Raptors at 10-14 on the season. Another one is Zach LaVine, who everybody knows about, is on the trade block. And I know you saw this tweet, but Zach LaVine apparently thinks the Lakers would be a great destination for himself because, of course, he does. I don't think it's very feasible for the Lakers to actually do that, but that's the most obvious candidate, of course, for any trade. But Zach LaVine and Pascal Siakam. Let's start with Pascal. We've done our bit on LaVine. Do you think there's any teams that are going to be hunting a Pascal Siakam trade on an expiring contract? If so, like what sort of value does that give the Raptors?
Yeah, well, I think we've talked about it a few times here that the Raptors have really but I don't know what word you want to
Back
use.
themselves
Just
in the corner.
completely screwed up the situation terribly. I honestly think it's time for the Raptors to just go full new management as well, but that's a topic for another day. Um, but yeah, I think teams will be willing to trade for Pascal for sure, but will they be willing to trade a ton? I think Memphis was a really good fit for Pascal, but they're kind of now really struggling. They're not going to make a big in-season move.
No.
Philly, I think Philly probably would rather OG. He's probably a better fit next to Pascal, next to Joel, just because Pascal and Joel's offensive game don't fit great together. Pascal's not a great shooter. Yeah, so I think it's a bit of a tough situation. The other top contenders, it doesn't really make sense. The Clippers aren't trading for him. Phoenix isn't trading for him. Denver's not trading for him. Boston's not trading for him. Milwaukee's not trading for him. And then it's like, okay, well, who else is even really in the realm of contending? Golden State? Is Golden State really going to trade for Pascal? I doubt it. And if they are, it's probably not going to be super meaningful. My guess would be probably Pascal doesn't get traded. And I don't know. It's such a weird situation because feels like the Raptors have really been pretty anti Pascal all year, and the vibes are way off. But are we just going to max him out this summer and think, okay, we'll trade him, maybe next year in 2 years?
That's the thing. I've said it like because I cover the Raptors every day pretty much, and they have there's a shit sandwich and they got to take a bite somewhere. So is
Yeah.
that pulling the trigger on a Pascal Siakam trade that you probably lose the trade, but at least you don't lose him for free? That really has never been Masai Ujiri's MO to just take a bad trade for a guy. But is there a chance he walks away for nothing in the summer? I think like he still wants to stay here. I think he likes Toronto. I also think it's a bigger likelihood that when a player has their ring already, they're less likely to go seeking that another one. Like, not saying nobody wants, like, they don't care about winning anymore, but they're more comfortable not winning. They're more comfortable with their own happiness in location and team. So maybe he stays. Raptors probably have to max him. Then the conversation becomes: how tradable is Siakam on a max contract? Does that make him a whole lot more tradable? Getting like
Well,
I used to know the numbers. It's like similar. It's like a little bit less than what Jaylen Brown got for. Oh, that's his super. It's a lot. It's near 40 million. That's all I know a year. Is that a contract teams want to trade for after the fact?
Well, the thing is, I would say if a team's trading for him now, they're probably not trading for him as a pure rental unless they're pretty much giving up like, one pick, maybe unprotected.
Yeah.
So if teams are trading for him now, they're probably trading for him with the intention of signing him. So I don't think it's that huge of a difference in terms of value because a team trading for him probably has the intention of signing him. But yeah, I'm with you. It's just, I like that shit sandwich analogy. That's just true. Like, it's totally the Raptors' fault. There's no one else to blame. They've completely handled every trade situation and every free agent situation totally wrong. And now, it's not, if it was me, I'm trading Siakam even at a huge discount because you can't afford to keep, being a 35-win team. You need to be a 20-win team, especially, the goal has to be good on at least Scotty's rookie scale math. That you have to be good by the end of that. If you're going to be good by the end of that, you need some picks in now. And look, even as a Torontonian as well, like going down this road, like how did the Pirtle trade happen? That's one of the worst minor trades in NBA history. To hamstring a franchise for trading for whatever, the 18th best starting center in the league, maybe a little better than that. He doesn't even play. He's averaging like 26 minutes a game. Just a completely insane trade. Yeah, so I don't know. The Raptors need like literally blow it up. Take some dynamite to the franchise right now, but I think
it's almost.
I think he'd be a great piece for a competitive team, but that competitive team just doesn't really exist right now.
The only team, like we talked about the Warriors last week. I know you had a bit of pushback on that, which is fair enough. The only other teams, the Hawks, could be feeling a bit more desperate to get back into like they've lost 5 in a row. They just lost to the Raptors. Siakam just balled out against them. That's a team that I think could be incentivized to do something. And the Kings as well have long been a Pascal Siakam fan. And perhaps just additional scoring to that team makes them a bit more serious of a threat in the Western Conference. But like you're right on the Pirtle trade. And the issue is they continue to back themselves deeper and deeper into that corner because like they trade for Pirtle and missed the playoffs. But now Pirtle's a free agent. Well, you probably shouldn't re-sign him and you should commit money elsewhere. You should commit more to rebuilding. But how would that look if you trade away a first round pick for Pirtle and then let him go for nothing? So you're almost forced into signing him. And even though $20 million a year to me is more than fair for Pirtle, even though the trade is more than fair, maybe not quite more than fair, but like somewhat fair for Pirtle, it's just like not what the franchise needed. So it's almost like you take an L on Pascal here this year, if you can, and then just work on Scotty Barnes more. Like, don't waste another year sign Pascal Summer, then trade him next season. Like, don't waste a year on like I'm not in the camp that thinks these two guys can't play together, but I think that with this roster and the lack of spacing, it certainly makes it more difficult to these guys. So
Yeah, they could play together if they had a shooting center or a point guard that could shoot, or a shooting guard that could shoot, or anyone else on the roster who could
other
shoot.
guys who could shoot.
Like Schroeder, man, we don't need to get into this, but I hate watching Dennis Schroeder. I think he's been fine. Just watching the Raptors is painful. I feel bad for you that you say you watch like every game. It's
every
horrible.
Every game I live stream, watch along on my YouTube channel.
It's unwatchable watching this team. They're horrible to watch. I find myself betting on them pretty often. I don't think I've won one of those bets this season. They're a terrible team to watch. They don't play fun basketball at all. They have no shooting. They have no shooting in a league that's gone, that direction. And it's not even that they have no shooting. It's the fact that their best players can't shoot and they're not surrounded by shooting. Like Pascal and Scotty, even though Scotty actually is shooting quite well this season.
41 on catch and shoot threes, which is pretty crazy.
For sure. This season should be totally fine right now if they hadn't just completely screwed everything up. Because Scotty took a real, he really didn't really improve last year at all. He has been way better this year. And that's awesome. And that's by far the most important thing for this Raptors franchise. But it doesn't matter so much when you have all these weird question marks and no pick unless it's top 6.
Yeah, well, I think that's an even bigger problem. If the pick doesn't convey this year, and the Raptors are drafting, it's not a very good draft, which was probably in mind when they traded the pick. They don't have the pick next year. Oh, sorry.
I hate when the idea of like trading a pick because the draft isn't bad. It's like 18 months away.
Oh, no. And I think it's dumb as well. I'm just stating.
No. I agree with you. That probably was the reason. I think the Raptors have actually come on the record a bunch of times and said in different ways, like, oh, it's an X person draft, so we don't care that much. God, I hate that logic. Sorry to interrupt you, but that to me is like teams always get it wrong. The league always gets it wrong. Like evaluating guys is so hard. Evaluating an entire draft and seeing how that's going to work out is impossible. So just the idea of, oh, we don't need this pick because it's not that good of a draft 18 months before the draft actually happens. Just purely ridiculous.
So where I'm going with this is they won't have their 2025 pick, which is the bigger because now it should be abundantly clear. Sit back, rebuild a little bit. You have that pick next year, but all of a sudden you could be in a spot where you don't have that pick.
I think I would rather a top 6 2024 pick than the potential of the 2025 pick, even if the draft is not great. Just because like the odds of the pick being better than top 5 the next year is kind of tough, even if we really go down to the studs. But also there would still be protection on it, no?
Yeah, I think it's top 8, and then it would be top 10 in 2026.
Okay, so that's not terrible. So get the pick this year and then completely take the studs off and get top 8 again. So not a huge deal, but doesn't look like
you bring up a good point I hadn't considered. Like, would that pick next year be better than top 6? Probably not. So
it's hard. It's hard to get a top 6 pick with, we're probably still going to have guys like Pirtle's probably going to be around. Scotty's probably going to be around. Teams will tank. Like
Scotty will be around. No question.
Oh yeah, sorry. Scotty will definitely be around. The Pistons aren't going to be good next year. The Wizards are going to be terrible. Portland's going to be terrible. Like these teams have no path to being good. So like the Raptors already have the best player on any of those teams going into next year. So it's hard to really get that top of a pick.
That's just the thing. All these fucking tanking teams are hunting a Scotty Barnes. We have that, and we're still not using him as well as we could. Yeah. Oh my God. I stress enough about the Raptors my free time, so I'm not going to do it here anymore. Just quickly here, any perhaps like somewhat sleeper players you think on the trade block could become significant as the season goes forward?
Yeah, I don't know if I would consider this a sleeper. I think I've kind of heard whispers of his name of late, but feels like the real guy who who, if he was available, team should really get after. Lauri Markkanen.
Okay.
They're bad. They're going to be really bad. Looks like Lauri's not going to play today. They're happy to kind of sit him out as much as possible. They want a top pick. Feels like a reasonable time to trade him, like pretty top of their market. And God, Lauri Markkanen fits well on a lot of teams. And the real one that I would want, just purely as a onlooker of the league, is to OKC, because he's a perfect fit in OKC. He's a secondary rim protector. He's really tall and big. So playing him at the 4 next to Chet, he's way bigger than any of the other non-Chet players they play. And then, even though they're the best 3-point shooting team in the league somehow, he would be like a real knockdown off-ball shooter. He fits perfectly with Shea as well. So yeah, I think Lauri Markkanen would be the guy who, like all the other guys, Levine, Pascal, I don't really think you put a ton of chips in for, but Lauri's pretty young. If I'm OKC, I'm thinking, okay, if we can go out and get Lauri Markkanen, let's do it. And then maybe it accelerates them a little bit, but they're pretty accelerated. They're awesome. Like, I know I've faded them. I took their wins under. I took them to not make the playoffs. At this point, Chet's a near all-star level player as a rookie, and Shea's a top 5 MVP again. So
I like that a lot.
They're the real deal.
What's interesting as well, he doesn't make a ton of money, which is good for them. He makes 17.2. Only a year and a half left on his contract. However, he fits the timeline. He's like a star player that still fits this timeline. So I like that fit a lot. That was a little bit of a sleeper. He's been floated around, but I like that.
And I feel like teams like, these young nucleus teams have all kind of screwed up trading for guys. Memphis passed on 1 million guys, and that looks like a mistake. And a lot of their assets kind of
the OG
just went to nowhere.
OG will go down. It's a big what if for that team, I think.
They could, even Bridges, maybe they could have gotten. And then the other route, New Orleans kind of went all in for CJ, who was completely out of their timeline and not that good. So I like CJ as a player, but not like a star who's going to put you over the edge. So I think this would really be in between those two moves of, completely passing. I think OKC really likes to keep their powder dry, but they have too many picks anyway. Picks become depreciating assets if you have so many of them and you're kind of leveraged out of them. And teams know they don't have spots on the roster really for these picks. So I think it would be a good time to really do that. If they could get Lauri, I wouldn't want to do it for anyone else on this team.
Yeah, I do like what you're saying there. So that one definitely interesting for Markkanen. Some questions here. The pick for Pirtle has not become anything because it would be this year's pick. However, the Raptors have given 2 picks to the Spurs in the past. Those picks have become Keldon Johnson, who could be actually a sleeper to get traded, and Malaki Branham. So not star players, but those are some talented players who are definitely on the rise. That imagine having those 2 players in Toronto. Although the Keldon one is, I think that was the Kawhi trade, which is whatever. The Branham one will haunt them a bit, maybe.
Yeah, and I think an important thing to remember when trading picks is, it's not so. There's also just so much opportunity cost of not only trading picks for Pirtle, but like just Pirtle has allowed us to or has not allowed us to trade players freely. And the really important thing is we should be bad to surround Scottie with talent. That's kind of the most obvious path. And we just don't have that opportunity. So that's really the opportunity cost we're missing right now.
Agreed. Agreed completely. And it's tied up future assets because of the Stepien rule. All these, so many reasons why that trade wasn't very good. Okay, let's get to the picks here to end off the show. Eric messaged earlier that the Malik Beasley under 3.5 3-pointer made pick that you gave out last week, Eric was able to buy his mom a Christmas gift she always dreamt about because of the win on that one. And shout out people who played the same play for Beasley against the Pacers again yesterday, because we played it on the morning show, and that was a winning play as well.
Yeah, I went and checked. It was 2.5 by the time I got to.
So yeah, good stuff there. Let's go to today's free picks. Who do you have today?
So the first pick I'm playing, and I think I'm fading a lot of the Twitter touts out there right now, but I'm going Kobe White under 21.5 points.
So I'm just looking across the bet stamp odd screen here to find the best price. This one up here is wrong, but you can get 21.5 minus 110 at Betway, 21.5 minus 115 widely available at DraftKings, minus 120 BetMGM. Is there like is there a max you'd play this number to?
Yeah, honestly, I would if you can't get better than 115 minus 115, just wait. Like if a lot of um got big following guys on Twitter are playing the over, I would be pretty surprised if this number doesn't keep bouncing back and you can just kind of get minus 110. I think I was getting minus 104 earlier today. Yeah, I would just wait on it. Don't play worse than minus 115.
And the second play, we'll go into a bit of analysis, but let's get to that second play first of all. Who do you have as your second play?
Second play, Mike Conley under 13.5 points. Looks like it's steamed out quite a bit during this show. Let's see. Okay, bet365 minus 115. Beautiful. Yeah. And then there's some minus 120s out there. So minus 120 is fine as well.
Okay, so two plays involving two plays there on point total unders. Let's get to your initial thoughts on that Kobe White play, why you're fading what is you're deeming to be a very popular play.
Yeah, so last 6 games, if you just want to take full face value, last 6 games, Kobe White is averaging 26.2 points. He's shooting 54% from the field, and he's playing 40 minutes a game. Sorry, not from the field, 54% from 3. You know, if you regress his 3-point shooting down to 40% and his minutes down from, I think they've played one overtime game. He played another game where he played 45 minutes. It's hard to project a player 40 points. No one in the league averages 40 minutes. 40, if you project him 38 minutes and regress his 3-point shooting down to 40, you know, even in that span, he's under 21.5 points per game. That completely ignores the fact that he also was only averaging, 13.6 points prior to the last 6 games. And he's now playing the Heat, which is a tough matchup. The Heat are a good defensive team. The total is 216. I believe that'll be the lowest total in this matchup. I think it's also in this run he's been on. It'll definitely be one of the lower team totals as well. They're 4-point dogs. So, it's just, I just can't get to that high a number. You're getting 21.5 points at minus 110. I think obviously he's scoring a lot more and Levine is out, but I don't think he's Levine being out is an 8 additional point boost for Kobe White, who was averaging 13.6 points on the season prior to Levine being out. Also, I didn't mention one of these games in this run, DeMar also didn't play, and now DeMar is playing. Vooch has gotten a lot of shots as well during this time. So, yeah, I just think this has been over-adjusted. I wasn't playing under at 19.5 or 18.5, but this has now jumped up from, I think, 19.5 last game to 21.5 today. So it's just too high of a number when you adjust what should be around his mean or median expectations.
Okay, and the Mike Conley play also taken under on Conley. What's the reasoning behind this one against the Dallas Mavericks?
Yeah, this one's a lot more simple. Market for the spread, and in my head, has Ant as a right around a true questionable. Ant plays a lot. He likes to play. He fully practiced yesterday, and he kind of talks about that MJ Kobe mindset of always playing. And the spread's right in between. It's taking a bunch of steam today. It's also a play I'm on. So this is just a price to me set for Ant fully out. I don't think it jumps up much if Ant is out, and I think it'll come down to around 11.5 even. If Ant is in, Conley's averaging around 11.5 points this year, right around fair, not any weird shooting splits or anything like that. So, it's a play you get a lot of value. It probably ends up being, 15% expected value if he's in, and around, you're just paying the VIG if he's out. So just solid value play for me for a guy averaging 11.5 points if Ant plays.
Okay, great stuff. So we had the Kobe White under on points and the Mike Conley under on points. Let's hope for some more success like we had last week. Final thing from the chat here. Eric asks, and I don't know what this means. But Eric wants your thoughts on the Twitter
No.
tout Alex Caruso. I don't know who it is, so you
Yeah,
take
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
away.
No, he's got like 200,000 followers. Guy who's
Okay.
come to my attention recently. I think Twitter touts are interesting because I think there's a faction of gambling Twitter who likes to kind of villainize them all and make it seem like they're all terrible. And then the tout side kind of looks at themselves as like holier than thou. Um, and they love like talking about how like they've made all these people money and they're like doing everything for charity, which typically they do it for money or for attention and for views and clicks. Caruso, I think he's probably a winner in general. He posts picks early. They move the market a ton because he has 200,000 followers.
Yeah, I found him. I
I
found
think
his
he's
account here.
probably generally a winner, but he specifically is on Kobe White over. It's not something that like if I'm looking at a play and I like it and I see he's on the over, I'm not particularly worried about it. I think he's probably generally a winner, but probably moves the market a bit too aggressively for how skillful a bettor he is, in my opinion. Like if you look at a lot of his analysis, it'll be like, he's gone over in 6 of the last 7 games, stuff like that. Stuff, that can matter, but not
Not
not,
really.
cutting edge by any means. And then the last thing I'd say about him is I think that he does a lot of like scammy tout language. Like I think he starts all his tweets with lock in exclamation marks. That's obviously something you shouldn't do. Nothing's a lock. It's kind of a ridiculous thing to tweet. So yeah, I think he's fine. He is a lot like a lot of the guys who he's similar to, but he's got a ton of followers and really does move the market a ton.
I'm not gonna pull up Eric's comment, but Eric thinks you're being too nice. That's what he's saying in chat. So let's not get ourselves in trouble here. Let's wrap up the show. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Reminder to hit that like button if you did enjoy what you saw today and you are tailing these picks. Subscribe to the channel because, like I said earlier, it's not just me and Kirk here every Thursday. It's me and Pips every morning on this channel at 9:45 a.m. Eastern time. Hit that notification bell as well so you're up to date with all of the content here on the Board YouTube channel, the Hammers NBA content division. I'll be back tomorrow morning. Me and Kirk Evans will be back next week, same time. We hope to see you there. We hope you all have a very good weekend. Thanks again.